This is ridiculous.
What are we gonna do?
Road trip.
This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Give yourself 5 points if you recognize the movie Animal House just now. There will be more pop quizzes on the way. We're taking a road trip. We're traveling about 8 billion miles. Don't worry, we'll be back by lunch because this one will be along the scale model of the solar system in Aroostook County. We'll journey from the outermost dwarf planet in Topsfield to the sun in Presque Isle, if we can find them all. When you're traveling at the speed of light, it's easy to miss them as you fly right by. Today's episode of Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is out of this world, and it's brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Bar Harbor Whale Watch, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS. Now then, there will be 4 of us in this road trip. You, me, my wife Sandy, she'll be driving, and I warn you, she's a little fast, and Cortana.
I'm your personal assistant.
Here we go. Buckle up. The current story is that about 13 billion years ago, a big bang sent gas and stuff flying through the universe, mostly hydrogen and helium. Eventually, gravitational forces pulled some of that stuff together, and if enough of it got together, the matter collapsed inwardly under its own gravity, and a star was created. If there wasn't enough gas and gravity, those dust clouds became planets and smaller celestial bodies. Our solar system was created about 4.5 billion years ago. There are 8 official planets now that Pluto has been reclassified as a dwarf planet. But Pluto isn't the only dwarf planet out there, and it's not at the edge of the solar system. There's more things out there, even beyond that, circling the sun. The University of Maine at Presque Isle is home to the Northern Maine Museum of Science. Dr. Kevin McCartney is the museum director, and he's also a geology professor. Early this century, the idea of constructing a scale model of the solar system began to take shape, and by October 2003, scale models of our 9 planets were stretched out from Holton to Presque Isle. The idea was to give visitors a notion of how far apart our planets are in the solar system. Since then, 2 dwarf planets were added, and a second Pluto was erected since Pluto is really weird, and we'll explain that shortly. On today's show, we're going to drive the solar system, and we're going to start in Topsfield. The biggest challenge will be simply finding all these models. So on Route 1, just as we come in Route 6 from Lincoln, somewhere around here, there's supposed to be the first one, and I think it's right there next to the memorial.
Oh, is
that
it? Okay.
I don't know, take a, well.
Oh,
you should
gotta go this way. Okay.
That is it, yeah, okay.
Cha-ching! That was too easy.
I know it.
Do you actually see the marker? Oh, there's the marker.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a little tiny thing way up there.
Well,
Okay.
it's a dwarf planet. What do you expect?
Okay, let's go take a look.
The first scale model is now in Topsfield. When you hit the intersection of Routes 1 and 6, you should see a Veterans Memorial, and the model is right near it. Eris is a dwarf planet. A dwarf planet is big enough that its own gravity pulled it into more or less a uniform shape, usually a sphere, but it's not big enough that its gravity has pulled all the other nearby matter into it. It's basically floating out there around some other junk, and all of it is revolving around the sun. When the scale model solar system was created, we didn't even know Eris existed. It was discovered 3 years later. One big reason that Pluto is now a dwarf planet is that Eris, this object even further out, is actually bigger than Pluto, and for a while there was talk about declaring it our 10th planet. Instead, scientists reclassified Pluto downward. The Earth is just about 4 times larger than Eris. There are actually moons rotating around several planets that are larger than Eris. It's way out there and takes 558 of our years to go once around the sun. It's so far beyond Pluto that they had to leave Aroostook County to find a place far enough to represent the distance with the scale model. But for all its glamour, it's kind of tiny here in Topsfield. Okay. Already I'm laughing because it's really like a tiny flagpole with a golf ball on top. So that's a dwarf planet.
Main solar system model Eris.
Okay, and
I know nothing about Eris. Do you know anything about
I
Eris?
didn't even know Eris existed.
It wasn't part of my science education, I have to say.
No, I was disgruntled as soon as they made Pluto a dwarf planet. But that's it. I mean, basically, it's a rusted pipe with something that's about the size of a golf ball sitting on top into a cracked concrete base and a faded sign in front of it. Well, it's exciting so far.
Well, I just remembered that I do know one thing about Eris, and that's who it's named after, isn't it? The goddess of discord. Greek goddess of discord is Eris.
Is that spelled E-R-I-S?
Yeah, I
Really?
think so.
Is that a crossword puzzle word?
It is.
Jeez. Worst radio show ever.
I don't know astronomy, but I know my mythology.
Goddess of mischief?
No, of discord.
Discord, okay.
Yeah.
All right, stop it right there. Two things you should know about Sandy is that she does the New York Times crossword puzzle in ink, but she also bluffs a lot in Scrabble. Cortana, let's fact check. Who was Eris?
Eris is the Greek goddess of chaos, strife, and discord. Her name is the equivalent of Latin discordia.
Oh, it's going to be one of those radio shows where I'm never right. Oh, by the way, for this radio show, I auditioned 3 talents. I checked out Siri from Apple, checked out Google, but Cortana from Microsoft Edge seemed to have the edge.
So where's our next stop? You got the brochure.
I think probably it's all the way to Holden. Right there. That's the point. The solar system is probably much bigger than you thought. The dwarf planet Eris is more than twice the distance from the sun than Pluto is. The solar system is likely twice as large as you and I learned in grammar school. The sun's gravity goes out a long way, so far that the scale model that used to cover 40 miles now covers 90 just to demonstrate the distance.
Aroostook County line.
Yeah, just crossed the Aroostook County line, and actually it doesn't feel any different.
We can pull off at the East Grand. The pull off there, the $1 Million View.
Okay.
I always love that.
Yeah, I love it too, and I never get up here.
It's been a while for me. I used to do some work up here, but it's been many years. There used to be a restaurant there, and that's where I ate the bad clams that I got so sick at. And shortly thereafter, that restaurant closed. And I'm not saying it was because of me, but maybe it was other people like me.
Yeah, once word gets around about bad clams, things go downhill pretty fast. So this is the $1 Million View. $1 million Canadian, maybe. All right, pronounce this. What's this chain of legs?
Chpetnikuk.
I can't say otherwise. So we're at the scenic $1 Million View pullout, overlooking East Grand. Well, that was fun. So far, we've driven 25 miles from the dwarf planet in Topsfield and still haven't reached another object in the scale model solar system. The scale used is astronomical units, the distance between the Earth and the Sun. That's 93 million miles. So for this project, 1 mile on the road equals 93 million miles in space. So thus far on our road trip, we've traveled 2.3 billion miles already. We're making good time.
1 mile to the visitor center.
You know, I never come into Holton from this direction.
So in the visitor center, if I remember, they've got Pluto, and then they've got one of Pluto's moons, Charon, which I believe is another Greek mythology figure. Isn't that the spirit guide to the underworld?
I think so.
The boatman there on the river Styx.
I'm going to say yes because I don't know otherwise.
In Greek mythology, Charon or Charon is the ferryman of Hades who carries souls of the newly deceased across the rivers Styx and Acheron that divided the world of the living from the world of the dead.
So this is a scavenger hunt trying to find all these planets, but at least we know exactly where this one is because it's in the visitor center. Or at least this one is. I understand there's now 2 Plutos.
Yeah, this one is an average distance from the sun.
We're on a road trip traveling the solar system. It's the scale model of our planetary system that runs along Route 1 from Topsfield to Presque Isle. My wife Sandy is driving. I'm doing my best to spot the planets as we speed by. And Cortana arbitrates all disputes.
I'm your personal assistant.
Fortunately, we know where to find Pluto. It's in the visitor center in Holton next to Walmart. We'll meet you there in about 3 minutes and find out why this planet is no longer a planet. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Today's show is one of the most unusual episodes ever to air. It's a road trip up Route 1 in Aroostook County, following the scale model of the solar system. Creation of the solar scale model started in the year 2000, and originally it stretched 40 miles. It now stretches 96 miles with the addition of a dwarf planet that you can find in Topsfield. The idea is to give visitors a concept of just how vast the solar system is. On the scale model, you can drive 96 miles south from the sun, and when you finally get to the outermost dwarf planet, it's only the size of a marble. Next time you find yourself driving up into the county, try this out for yourself. In the meantime, here is how this show is working today. My wife Sandy and I are driving the route, stopping at the models, and recalling what we know about the solar system. The explainer of all things and arbiter of all disputes is Microsoft's voice-activated digital assistant, Cortana.
Cortana is me.
She's like Siri, Alexa, or Google, only smarter or funnier or not. At this point in our route, we are approaching Holton, which we know is where to find the next model, Pluto.
I can't remember. Is it the Voyager probe that passed by Pluto a couple of years back? Anyway, whatever probe it was, I think they put it at the point where it would be going by, and they had a little ceremony there a couple of years back. 2013, 2014, thereabouts.
It wasn't Voyager. It seemed like it started with an F, Frontier or something.
Yeah, sorry, can't remember.
The exploration of Pluto began with the arrival of the New Horizons probe in July 2015, though proposals for such a mission had been studied for many decades. There are no plans as yet for a follow-up mission.
New Horizons, yeah, that was the name of the mission. And I think that's when they put in the other Pluto. So it says, you're part of northern Maine's Aroostook County 40-mile-long scale model of the solar system. At this scale, 1 mile along U.S. Route 1 equals the distance from the Earth to the Sun, known as an astronomical unit. The Sun is located at the Northern Maine Museum of Science in Folsom Hall. Should I continue?
Nah.
Now I'm looking at Pluto and Charon, and both of these I think are smaller than Eris, right?
Yeah, Pluto is definitely smaller, because this is the size of a large marble.
An Aggie.
An Aggie.
It kind of looks like an Aggie the way they did it. I wonder if they used an Aggie.
The other was golf ball size. All right, pop quiz, because I didn't study for this test. Which is larger, Earth's moon or Pluto?
I have no idea. Judging from the size of the Earth, because I've seen that one on Route 1 before, I would say our moon is bigger than Pluto.
All right.
Earth's moon is larger than Pluto. The moon's diameter is 3,476 kilometers, while Pluto's is approximately 2,274 kilometers.
It's not written up here anywhere, but an astronomical unit is the distance between the Earth and Sun. How many million miles is that?
93,000.
93 million.
93 million. I knew that.
All right. How long does it take light to get from the Sun to the Earth?
Oh. I used to know that number. 186,000.
No, it's 186,000 miles per second. That's how fast it goes. But how long does it take for light to leave the Sun and get to the Earth? Covering that astronomical unit. I think it's 8 minutes. I'm going to have to look it up.
The short answer is that it takes sunlight an average of 8 minutes and 20 seconds to travel from the Sun to the Earth.
The sign says New Horizons is NASA's first mission to the last planet. Of course, it's no longer a planet. What a jip. Designed to make the first reconnaissance of Pluto, its moon Charon, and other objects in the distant Kuiper belt. I knew it. No spacecraft has ever ventured into this region beyond Neptune's orbit, yet the study of these icy rocky worlds will tell us much about the origins and outer frontier of our solar system. Scheduled to reach Pluto before 2020, New Horizons is a historic voyage of exploration. The United States has made history as the first nation to reach every planet from Mercury to Neptune with the space probe. The New Horizons mission to Pluto in the Kuiper Belt, the first NASA launch to a new planet since Voyager in the 1970s, allows the United States to complete the reconnaissance of the solar system. All right, so that's Pluto number 1. You can go find Pluto number 2.
Onward.
Okay, we've just finished up Pluto number 1, which is 0. Basically, we start mileage from here, so we now go 7.7 miles
North.
and it's north, and it's going to be in Littleton.
And that's Pluto number 2?
That's Pluto number 2.
And that's the eccentric orbit,
Yes.
because it's shaped more like an oval than a circle.
Seatbelt. So, you want to set your odometer?
I can once I get out of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Bro, I can only go one way here. Shoot. That. I'm going to pull out here because I can do it. Don't try this at home.
No, really. So we just made an illegal turn, and apparently we got away with it.
You know, by the time we get to Littleton, we could be facing severe weather. Look, right over there. This is not a good storm we're heading into.
So far, so good. We're heading north on Route 1 looking for a second Pluto. The reason they put up 2 Plutos is because Pluto is weird. Its orbit isn't even close to round, and it's not orbiting in the same plane as all the other planets. Cortana?
It takes 248 Earth years for Pluto to complete one orbit around the Sun. Its orbital path doesn't lie in the same plane as the 8 planets, but is inclined at an angle of 17 degrees. Its orbit is also more oval-shaped, or elliptical, than those of the planets.
What Cortana is trying to say is that the other planetary orbits are pretty round, but Pluto is really elongated. It's so stretched out that sometimes this former 9th planet is even closer to the Sun than the 8th planet, and at a much higher angle. Oh, listen to me. I'm mansplaining to a computer. Anyway, the second Pluto was put up to better represent where Pluto is right now. First Pluto is about the average distance from the Sun, but that's about 6.5 billion miles away from where the planet's actually going to be for the next 20 years or so. Meanwhile, it has started to rain. Hard. But just as suddenly, there's a rainbow over there on our right, and this close to the border, I'd say that rainbow's over Canada. Ooh, now it's a double rainbow.
Yeah, oh, beautiful, yeah. Oh, that's auspicious.
Yeah. Good news is there's a pot of gold. Bad news is it's Canadian currency. Now, the hardest part of following the scale model along Route 1 is finding the planets when you're driving in traffic in a heavy rain, and what you're looking for is about the size of a marble stuck up on top of a tall pole. But there it is.
Oh, little tiny Pluto up on top. This is just like the one that was in Topsfield, only it's even tinier and on a taller pole.
But it's got a moon.
It's got a moon.
So, next we go to Neptune, that's on the east side, and Littleton, that's 9.1 miles from the visitor center.
Yeah.
If only you'd set the mileage right when we left the...
Well, if that one was supposed to be 7.7, and I'm now at 6.7, 6.8, but we'll call it 6.7, then the next one should be at 7.1, right?
Well, Neptune's fairly large. We should...
Yeah, Neptune, you'll see.
We'll take a break while we drive a couple of more miles and look for the 8th planet of the solar system, Neptune. And coming up, we're going to try to find Uranus. That joke's about to get really old. We're driving Route 1 in Aroostook County following the solar system model. It's you, me, my wife Sandy, and our digital assistant, Cortana.
I'm your personal assistant.
Stand by to find Neptune and look for Uranus. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. It's a very unusual show today. It's a road trip. About 14 years ago, volunteers working with the University of Maine at Presque Isle erected a scale model of the solar system along Route 1 in Aroostook County. Each mile on Route 1 represents 93 million miles in space, or what they call an astronomical unit, since that's the average distance from the Earth to the Sun. In the car, you and me and my wife Sandy, who's driving. For all facts and resolutions of argument, we've got Microsoft's Cortana with us.
I'm your personal assistant. You can tell me the things that interest you, and I'll keep it in my notebook.
Okay, that's a little weird, but let's go with it. So far, we've driven about 50 miles, starting in Topsfield, where there's a dwarf planet named Eris. We visited 2 Plutos, and in between the Plutos, it started raining hard. We're now in search of the 8th planet of the solar system.
And the rain is tapering off with no thunder and no funnel clouds. Yay!
So we should be able to find Neptune, and I certainly hope we can find Uranus.
You are just not going to let that joke jump, are you?
Now, we do have some info that we printed off the web, and our directions are to look for Neptune in Littleton on the right side of the road, 9.1 miles north of the Holton Rest area, which is not exactly how it worked out. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's on the other side of the road. It's on the left side. That's just wrong.
Once again, I have to pull a UE.
So we've reached Neptune. Neptune is weird because the flagpole it's on is bent. I guess it's because it must spin differently in its axis than some of the others do. Boy, am I just guessing or what?
Yeah, I don't have anything to contribute to that.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just artistic.
But in terms of size, I would say that's larger than, it's about the size of a beach ball.
Yeah.
Larger than a basketball in terms of scale model size. Larger than a basketball, about the size of a beach ball, not quite a medicine ball.
And what color is it?
It's blue.
Dark blue?
Yeah.
It's through my sunglasses, it's hard to make a color out of it.
Here.
And it's so dark because of the rainstorm still. Okay, now I can see. Yeah, it's a dark bluish color.
I wonder if it's supposed to be blue, and if that's a white stripe at the equator, or did it just wear off, or does somebody erase it?
Well, isn't this one of those planets that's basically made out of
ice?
Yeah, congealed gas. Mm-hmm. Because it's so cold out there, it's almost down to absolute zero.
Yeah, it's like Fort Kent.
Neptune is the 8th and farthest planet from the Sun in the solar system. It is the 4th largest planet by diameter and the 3rd largest by mass. Among the giant planets in the solar system, Neptune is the most dense. The core of Neptune is made of iron, nickel, and other silicates that make up about 1.2 times the mass of the Earth.
I don't know. I think Uranus is closer to Fort Kent.
Let's go see if we can find Uranus.
Uranus, ho!
All right, that's in Bridgewater. It says it's on the east side, and that's at 21.6 miles away from the visitor center, so we've got a good...
So we'll say 20.5.
Yeah. And the whole point of 2 Plutos, and where they put the current Pluto, is we were talking about that elliptical orbit, but sometimes Pluto is actually inside the orbit of Neptune. I learned as a kid that Pluto was the furthest one out, but sometimes it isn't.
And what did you learn about Eris and... I can't even remember the name of the other one.
Ceres?
Ceres.
And the asteroid belt? Nothing.
Yeah, that's what I learned. Doodly squat.
Yeah.
So I wonder when kids learn the planets these days, they stop at Neptune, right? They just
that would make it easier
for 8 planets. Of course, from what I can tell, they don't memorize long lists of things like we used to have to in school anyway. They've all got, their phones, they can look things up, so they don't have to memorize dates or planets or capitals of states.
Whereas I was taught by nuns with rulers.
So let me get this right. Nuns taught you about Uranus? I don't want to go there.
No. So once again, the challenge is to simply find these planets, which is actually why this would be a good road trip for families. It's a little like a scavenger hunt with some cool science thrown in. The scale models do have the moons for each planet, or at least those moons large enough to be modeled. Neptune has a lot of moons, but all of them too small to care about. Uranus, or Uranus, is the same, lots of tiny moons. This planet, though, will be a little weird in its own way when we find it. As you know, the Earth is tilted towards the Sun. As we go around the Sun, sometimes the North Pole is tilted that way, sometimes the South Pole is tilted towards the Sun, which is why we have seasons. But on the 7th planet, the North Pole is pointed almost directly at the Sun. So if you want a vacation there, that's where you want to be.
So we're coming into Bridgewater Village. And it's supposed to be on our right, is that right?
Well, it's supposed to be on east side.
Yeah.
But so is Neptune, and it was on the west side, so...
I think I'm going to pull off and let some more traffic pass me.
Yeah. Well, they might be looking for Uranus, too.
Well, they can't have it. I just can't wait to get to Saturn so we can get away from all these dumb jokes. Oh, I think I see it.
See what?
Jerk. Did we miss it?
I don't...
20.7.
It's a big planet. I don't think we can miss it.
What was the mile marker on yours? What did it say?
Well, on this it's 21.6.
Oh, 21.6. Okay, so it may still be up ahead a little bit.
I don't think Uranus can be ahead because that's usually behind.
You just keep pulling these out of your pocket, right? How many more Uranus jokes do you have?
Keep pulling them out of my what?
Of course, I guess some of the school teachers now say Uranus, so that the kids don't giggle as much, but then you're saying urine, so I don't know how much better it is.
Uranus is the 7th planet from the Sun. It has the 3rd largest planetary radius and 4th largest planetary mass in the solar system.
So, pop quiz.
Yeah?
All the planets were named after Roman gods except one. Which one?
Oh, boy. Earth!
If you'd messed that one up, I would have been ashamed.
Hey, don't we have to find Ceres somewhere, too?
Yeah, that's between Jupiter and Mars.
Okay. And is Mars near Mars Hill by any chance?
I don't think it is.
Too bad. Oh, man.
Oh, for God's sakes, there it is right there.
We went right by it. And it's a pretty blue color.
Yeah, this is actually one of the best planets, and we went right by. We found Uranus.
Yay!
All right. Uranus was god of what?
I think wasn't he one of those early ones?
One of the early gods?
Yeah, like before Zeus. Kind of all the back with Gaia and.
Well, those were all Greek. Jupiter was.
Titan.
Yeah.
All those previous ones. I think Uranus was one of the proto-gods.
Uranus is known as the primeval god of the sky because he represented the sky and all the heavens. He was also known as Aranos and was believed to be the very first son of Gaia, who is known as the Earth. Greek mythology states that Gaia created Uranus as her son without help from any other deity.
So here we stand in Bridgewater, looking up at Uranus. Okay, we've got to pick up the pace here. We've still got to find 6 planets and 1 dwarf planet before the end of the hour. Plus, it's getting late, and I don't know if we can find the sun in the dark. Saturn is next, as we're doing a road trip to visit the scale model of the solar system along Route 1 in Aroostook County. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket, with Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. If you're late getting here, I should warn you that today is a weird show. You are in a Subaru Forester with me, my wife Sandy, and Cortana.
I'm your personal assistant.
She's the Microsoft voice that lets Windows 10 talk to you.
I enjoy helping, assisting, bolstering, ballyhooing, supporting, and synonyms.
Okay, the jury is still out about whether she has a better sense of humor than Apple's Siri or Amazon's Alexa.
I'm hilarious.
Right now, we're looking for Saturn, which is a really big planet that is mostly just frozen gas. It's the one with rings that are probably made out of ice. At this point, we're only about 9 miles from Presque Isle, which is the point of creating this model solar system. The solar system itself is big. We started with a dwarf planet named Eris, which was down in Topsfield, 95 miles away from Presque Isle. But the first 6 planets are all within 10 miles of town. The scale model is designed to give you a sense of scale, and it's working. If we can find Saturn.
There it is. This one's even got a little pull-in and park. Very nicely done. Very nicely landscaped.
Yeah. And this one's in better shape than some of the other planets.
Mars Hill Rotary takes care of this. Thank you very much, Mars Hill Rotary.
And that's another cool thing about the solar system model. It was all done by volunteers for cheap. The planets are all made out of scrap parts from other things. I'm not sure what this model Saturn is made out of, but it looks like a big mooring ball ringed by a sewer grate. So tell us about Saturn, Cortana, and don't forget its big moon, Titan.
Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun and the 2nd largest planet in the solar system, after Jupiter. Saturn was named after the Roman god of agriculture. According to myth, Saturn introduced agriculture to his people by teaching them how to farm the land. Saturn was also the Roman god of time, and this is perhaps why the slowest, in orbit around the Sun, of the 5 bright planets was named after him. Titan is the 6th ellipsoidal moon from Saturn. Frequently described as a planet-like moon, Titan's diameter is 50% larger than Earth's natural satellite, the Moon, and it is 80% more massive.
It says, this site dedicated to Alvin F. Reeves II, potato breeder, community leader. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I have to say, this is the prettiest and most nicely kept up of any of the sites we've seen so far, including the visitor center, the Maine State Visitor Center.
Yeah. Okay, 4.5 miles to Jupiter.
4.5 miles to Jupiter.
And it's going to be on the left side of the road, on the west side. Jupiter is cool because you can see it easily with the naked eye. With binoculars, you can even see its 4 largest moons. Jupiter is about 5 times as far from the Sun as Earth is. Cortana, what am I missing?
The largest planet in our solar system by far is Jupiter, which beats out all the other planets in both mass and volume. Jupiter's mass is more than 300 times that of Earth, and its diameter is about 11 times larger than Earth's diameter. Jupiter is the supreme god of the Roman pantheon, called Dies Pater, Shining Father. He is a god of light and sky, and protector of the state and its laws. He is a son of Saturn and brother of Neptune and Juno, who is also his wife.
So we get to Jupiter, and it's missing. I can't even tell you what size it was because it's not there. Jupiter is in for repairs. The moons are there, at least the 4 big ones. 4 big ones are what? There's Ganymede.
The Galilean moons are the 4 moons of Jupiter discovered by Galileo Galilei around January 1610. They are by far the largest of the moons of Jupiter and derive their names from the lovers of Zeus, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto.
Well, that's too bad. The biggest planet of all, and it's missing.
Yeah.
How do you repair Jupiter?
It's a lot of duct tape. Well, one thing I learned from all this planet naming and mythology, the Greek and Roman gods had a lot of sex. It's now 3 miles to our next planet, Mars, but along the way, we'll be looking for our second dwarf planet. A celestial body bigger than an asteroid, but not big enough to be a planet. Sirius is only about a mile down the road, but it's going to be hard to spot because it isn't going to be very big. So, what is it?
Ceres was named after the Roman goddess of the harvest, of growing plants, and motherly love. It is the smallest of the dwarf planets, a new category of astronomical bodies created by the International Astronomical Union in 2006. Dwarf planets currently includes Pluto, Eris, and Ceres.
There it is.
Oh, where?
Right there.
Oh, you are so good. What are you laughing at?
It's tiny. It's smaller than a marble.
Way up.
Yeah, it's like It's cute.
It's cute. You got a camera?
I do.
Oh my gosh, this is the size of a fingernail. And yet this is considered a dwarf planet.
Yeah. All right, back in the car. We've still got 4 more planets to hit, although you're already pretty familiar with the one we're on. Up next, Mars. It's supposed to be 1.3 miles ahead on the right, next to the second Welcome to Presque Isle sign. We should get there before this break is over. We're on a road trip driving the solar system scale model from Topsfield to Presque Isle. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. It's a road trip today. We're driving the solar system scale model in Aroostook County. It stretches from the University of Maine Presque Isle Science Building 95 miles down Route 1. But the closest 4 planets are all within the last 3 miles. As we pull up to Mars, it's you, me, my wife Sandy, and my personal digital assistant, Cortana.
Cortana is me.
So we're in Presque Isle, walking towards Impact Auto Body. And I have to say, Mars is looking a little peaked. For one thing, frost heaves or something has tossed the stake almost halfway out of the ground.
For another thing, it's not red anymore. It looks like all the paint's
I know it. Well, it's sort of reddish.
Reddish.
In a rusty sort of way.
Well, the rust on the poles.
Yeah.
A little rusty, but we found it.
Yeah.
It's bigger than Pluto, but not as big as...
Considerably bigger than Pluto. Now, Earth is bigger than Mars, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Mars is the 4th planet from the Sun and the 2nd smallest planet in the solar system, after Mercury. Named after the Roman god of war, it is often referred to as the red planet because the iron oxide prevalent on its surface gives it a reddish appearance.
So if you weighed 100 pounds on Earth, what would you weigh on Mars?
That's a question.
Someone who weighs 160 pounds on Earth would weigh 59.5 pounds on Mars.
Mars does have something Earth doesn't have. 2 moons. Although our one moon is a whole lot bigger.
The larger of the 2 moons of Mars is Phobos, still comparatively tiny, only 22 kilometers in diameter. The second moon, Deimos, even more irregularly shaped, is only 1/7 the size of Phobos.
That's not even enough room for a good golf course. So who were Phobos and Deimos?
Phobos was the god of fear in Greek mythology, son of the gods Ares and Aphrodite. He was the brother of Deimos, terror, Harmonia, harmony, Adrestia, Eros, love, and Teros, Hymeros, and Pathos. Deimos was a god in Greek mythology, personification of terror. His name meant dread. He did not appear in any stories in Greek mythology, but he was a mere representation of the terror that is brought upon humans by war.
How did you get so smart?
Of all the questions you could have asked.
Let's return to Earth. It's supposed to be down by Percy's Auto Body on the right side of Route 1 heading north into Presque Isle. While we're driving there, here's a question even Cortana couldn't answer. Why do all the other moons in the solar system have names and we just call our moon Moon? So let's talk about Earth, and we should just be about there.
Earth is the 3rd planet from the Sun, the densest planet in the solar system, the largest of the solar system's 4 terrestrial planets, and the only astronomical object known to harbor life.
There it is, right next to the Chamber of Commerce sign. You can pull right into the Chamber parking lot.
Good plan.
Yeah. I'd like to
How
think
on earth would I be able to drive without you?
One of the most fun things about this exercise is to find out how much of everything I learned as a kid is wrong. 50 years ago, I thought everything was pretty static. We had 9 planets, and the solar system went out to the 9th one. But the solar system is really everything that is held in orbit by the sun's gravity, and that goes way more than twice the distance that I thought it did. There's a whole belt of space junk out there beyond Pluto, and Pluto isn't even a planet anymore. There's a belt of asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. The Kuiper belt beyond Neptune is anywhere from 20 to 200 times larger than that and contains more junk. The planets are still pretty much in the same plane as they orbit the sun, but some of them tilt funny.
Earth and Moon. Oh, Earth looks pretty Earth-like.
Yeah.
Good job on that. Wonder what they use for that modeling clay?
Yeah. They're taking better care of Earth than we are.
Amen.
We're the densest because we're not a whole lot of frozen methane like some of the planets. Our moon is big, but Jupiter has two that are bigger and two that are roughly the same size. Saturn has one that's bigger. I did know that only Mercury and Venus have no moons at all, and Venus is where we're headed right now. All right, we're only going 0.4 of a mile.
All right.
And it's going to be on the other side of the road at Budget Traveler Motel.
Budget Traveler.
Let's talk about Venus. Cortana?
Venus is the second planet from the Sun, orbiting it every 224.7 Earth days. It has the longest rotation period, 243 days, of any planet in the solar system and rotates in the opposite direction to most other planets. With a mean surface temperature of 735 K, 462 degrees Celsius, 863 degrees Fahrenheit, Venus is by far the hottest planet in the solar system. Venus is hotter than Mercury because of its thick atmosphere. Venus' atmosphere is 96% carbon dioxide, which holds in heat. Mercury has a very thin atmosphere that does not keep heat on the planet. Venus got its name from the Roman goddess of beauty, from the Greek goddess Aphrodite.
Thank you, Cortana.
Anytime.
Oh, this one's kind of cute.
Yeah.
This one's more red than
Yeah.
Mars was.
It's supposed to be just clouded and smog.
Smog.
Yeah.
Venus has smog.
It's like Los Angeles, but without the beach.
I'm still bumming about Jupiter being missing.
I know it.
The biggest one.
Really upset about that.
Seeing the moons was not the same.
At long last, after 95 miles of driving the solar system scale model in Aroostook County, we're nearly up to Mercury, which is supposed to be somewhere near Burrell's or Burrell's Garden. Mercury is technically our smallest planet, now that Pluto is no longer a planet. Jupiter has two moons, and Saturn has one that are larger than Mercury. But because it is so close to us, we can see Mercury with a naked eye, on the right evenings near where the sun went down at sunset. Cortana?
Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system, one of 5 planets visible with the naked eye. Mercury is the second densest planet. Even though the planet is small, Mercury is very dense. Mercury is a major Roman god. Mercury the god was a messenger god, played music, and was the bringer of luck. He is the god with wings on his shoes and hat. He protected borders, and if any mortal ever needed to get to the underworld, he was the god who guided you.
Mercury has virtually no atmosphere, but it does have something in common with Venus. There's almost no tilt in their rotations. Only 2% for Venus, none for Mercury. By comparison, the Earth tilts 23 degrees. That means that neither of those planets has seasons. And that close to the sun, it's always summer, with the kind of temperatures we usually get during Bangor Fair Week. All right, let's find Mercury. Oh, there it is.
Swear.
Oh, well, there's Burrell's anyway. Oh, it's over there.
Oh,
So
right.
pull up to the right, and then into the parking lot.
Oh, it's in the parking lot. Right across from a windmill.
So whatever Burrell's is, their garden in front is where the planet is.
I think it's Burrell's.
Burrell's. All right, I'll go with Burrell's.
Mercury! We complete the solar system. Mercury's got an eyeball.
No, it's got a 5 on it. It's a former pool billiards.
That is great.
They took a 5 billiard ball and made a planet out of it.
Perfect.
And obviously the paint has somewhat faded off that.
Or maybe it burned
Or
off.
yeah,
You know how hot Mercury is.
That's true. So what do we learn from this?
That the solar system is vast.
Yeah, right.
And that we can drive it all in an hour and a half. Well, except for Eris.
Right.
With Eris, it became 2.5 hours.
Yeah, when we were out there in the Kuiper Belt, that was a long way away.
And really cold. This was fun, though. It was kind of an enjoyable way, you know, to... If you doing a trip. This is just one more way to sightsee.
It would be fun for kids. I mean, it's like a scavenger hunt.
It was fun for me.
Yeah. You can draw your own conclusions. There's one more part of the solar system that we didn't visit. The sun, which is actually inside the science building at the University of Maine, Presque Isle, near the office of the guy who dreamed all this up, Dr. Kevin McCartney, a geology professor who pulled together all the volunteers and donations it took to make this one of the largest scale models on the planet Earth. So the next time you're heading way north, thinking that Aroostook County is just one big potato, break up the trip with a few stops along the way. Visit Saturn. Find Uranus. Avoid the restaurant on the moon. It's good food, but no atmosphere. Next time, we'll ask the question, what is the speed of dark?
That is approximately 186,282.4 miles per second.
Thanks for coming along, Cortana.
Later.
Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine returns next Saturday morning at 9, Sunday morning at 8. Brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, Bar Harbor Whale Watch, and EBS. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket.